Excellent. Finish him. Kano wins. Fatality.
And there you have it, Mortal Kombat, everybody. Well, alright, I suppose a few more details are in order since this is a review, but chances are if you're watching this video you already know what Mortal Kombat is. But as a refresher, it's the fighting game developed by Midway Games Chicago that began misspelling every word beginning with a C back in 1992. And much like Street Fighter II, you had multiple unique characters fighting each other one-on-one until someone gets their head ripped off with their spine still attached or their flesh burned off their bones where they stand. Oh wait, Street Fighter II didn't have that, which is why Mortal Kombat was freaking awesome. Blood, gore, fantastic environments, weird fighters, memorable music, and the ability to piss off parents and politicians alike. It was a teenage dream come true back then. It was also at the center of the 16-bit console debate for a while due to the Sega Genesis version keeping blood and gore intact, whereas the Super Nintendo's removed all that and replaced it with showers of sweat and soul-crushing disappointment. But it seems like most people gloss over the PC port of the game, which is arguably the single best home port of the time. It was released in 1993 by Ultratech and converted by Acclaim Entertainment's Probe Software division. Now for the PC, states the box art blurb, making sure you're aware that this is not for washing machines or carrots. Also of note is this little MA13 rating sticker, since this was released before the ESRB was formed, but during the whole ratings fiasco going on in US Congress, you had all sorts of random rating systems. The strange thing about this one is that it's by the Video Game Rating Council, or VRC, which was Sega of America's own system for rating Genesis games and such. Why the balls it's on a non-Sega PC game like this is beyond me. Prepare yourself, execute bone-shattering combos and ferocious finishing moves. Become the supreme Mortal Kombat warrior. Which is unfortunate if you were planning on becoming the atrocious Mortal Kombat weakling. Inside the box, you get the game itself on 3.5-inch high-density floppy disks, and the game manual, containing the K-word fetish, even in the table of contents, though completely at random. And why are contents and characters spelled with a C, yet controls and combatants aren't? I demand congruence in my intentionally misspelled spelling. The rest of the manual is quite helpful though, not only describing the ridiculous story and how every move and character works, but acting as the game's off-disk copy protection, so you'll want to have it on hand when starting the game up, or else you can't play. And holy 90s, you even get a set of Mortal Kombat temporary tattoos, yeah! Which is neat, I suppose, but pretty confusing. I mean, the game is meant for mature audiences, right? Yet, in my mind at least, temp tats are clearly targeted at younger children. I mean, I'm sure there was someone out there who was both old enough to play this and loved smearing cheap ink on their skin, but I'm content in thinking that Acclaim was just enjoying double standards. After you enter the copy protection word, the game starts off pretty much the same way as the arcade game, with an attract sequence showing some backstory and random gameplay highlights. But the similarities don't stop here. Really, the entire game is pretty much the same as the arcade, in every way but demanding your quarters, and having to worry about some punk kid coming up and joining as player 2 and then crying when they lose and getting you in trouble somehow even though you just wanted to play the dang thing solo. Or was that just me? Yeah, the biggest difference here is the options menu, which allows you to change difficulty in things that the dip switches did on the arcade machine, as well as choose your sound device and graphics quality depending on your system specs. You also have the option to change your controls, either mapped to a joystick or keyboard, though I'd really recommend the keyboard. Why? Let's take a look at the original arcade cabinet here. You have a joystick in your left hand and a set of 5 buttons at your right, each mapped to a specific high and low kick and punch, as well as a block button in the middle. Now, if you play with a standard flight stick or a gamepad on a PC, you lose that feeling and degree of control entirely. Granted, it's not ideal with a keyboard either, but at least you can kind of emulate the button placement a little more closely to the real thing. Plus, it's just easier to pull off those all-important special moves with a keyboard since each direction can be pressed precisely. So, how's the game itself? Well, just take a look at each version side by side. Other than fewer colors on the PC and a different sound device, the arcade and DOS ports are impressively similar. Far more so than the console ports of the day, and even better than the Commodore Amiga port as far as graphics are concerned, which is somewhat surprising. The PC version's 256 color graphics look great, especially on a CRT monitor, and the Sound Blaster does a great job emulating the sound hardware of the arcade machine.
Flawless victory. Fight!
Though the music sounds a bit different no matter what sound device you have, just because it's using different stuff, but the tunes themselves are still the same. And maybe it's just me, but another thing I've noticed about this DOS version is that some of the animations feel just a tad less smooth, which is mainly noticeable when you're jumping, and this happens even on a fast Pentium PC. It's a very minor issue though, especially for a port from 1993, otherwise the same brutal, violent arcade experience is here on your PC, and that is just fantastic. For a long time, DOS PC users just got shafted in the arcade game port department, and this, oh no, it's exactly the opposite. The roster is the same, the moves are the same, all the secrets I'm aware of are the same, the finishing moves are all there and accounted for. As far as I know, this port is based on the third or maybe fourth revision of the arcade game, so the exploits and gameplay aren't going to match up with later versions, but I don't care. I get to beat up digitized people in a ridiculous tournament to the death on a DOS PC, and it doesn't suck. And it's even better if you update the game to its latest patch, as it fixes several issues with sound cards and such. It's nothing major, but it's nice to be aware of if you're planning on trying this one out. So yeah, Mortal Kombat, man, what a game. And it's nice to see a home version worthy of the original arcade game's standards. And sure, we've got arcade-perfect ports on most every modern system imaginable now, but if you're into DOS gaming and Mortal Kombat, this is seriously just awesome. There really is nothing like having Mortal freaking Kombat on an old 486 and beating the crap out of people on the same machine you could do your taxes on. MK1 may not be my favorite of the series, but there's still something raw and nasty about this one that's just brilliant. So if this sounds like fun, or you just want some gnarly temporary tattoos, definitely keep an eye out for this one.
Sub-Zero wins.